And many people, many leaders, many ministers shied away. But I will not shy away. I will not. And I want Honorable TJ to listen to me. The informal settlements, the people you represent, their percentage in terms of polluting. The story in town is the informal settlements are polluting Nairobi River. That's a fallacy. It's less than 1%. They even don't have garbage. They have nothing to throw. What they eat is very little. The garbage comes from the middle class. The biggest polluters of Nairobi River, and they must listen to me, and NEMA has mapped out 145 industries, factories, slaughterhouses, apartments, who discharge their affluent to Nairobi River. We have, and I have directed, the DG NEMA is sitting here. The laws that this house has passed, he must enforce it. He has no choice. Mamo must enforce. He either enforce or he leaves the job. You either shape in or shape out. So he has written restoration orders last week. So industries are the ones who are polluting Nairobi River. Number two, the greatest polluters, and the president has spoken to them, is Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. It is Athi Water and Sewerage Company. The president has spoken to the two CEOs. Their manholes discharge raw sewage into Nairobi River. In fact, we don't have a river, we have a sewage. The third and largest group that destroy Nairobi River are the dam sites. Along the 47-kilometer from Kikuyu constituency to Thwake Dam in Makueni, there are thousands of dam sites. On Sunday, trucks were in Mukuru kwa Jenga, trucks carrying garbage, discharging on the river. And I have told the governor of Nairobi, he must remove dam sites along Nairobi River. And we are going to call to order the companies that he has contracted who carry garbage and the private ones that come to our homes, even including members of parliament. We will sit with them. Mr. Speaker, the biggest problem in our country in terms of environmental challenge is we devolved it. Waste management is devolved. No, pollution is devolved. Zoning is devolved. No county today in our country can tell you we have this dam site. You have seen trucks, Mr. Speaker, as you drive. Behind them, the garbage is falling. We will introduce very strict measures. So dam sites is another pollution. Solid waste goes into the river, Mr. Speaker. Informal settlement, very little. If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, just to make a joke, the guy who is in the informal settlement, he cleans his plate, even doesn't need to wash it. The food he has is very little. So what is he going to throw away? The people who throw garbage, who have huge garbage, is the middle class and the industries. And then they blame informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, The other group is those who build or encroached on the riparian part of. When I saw the question from Honorable Kajuang, I was very happy, because it will give me an opportunity to address from the floor of this house. These 100, I have written to CAPTCHA and I have written to Kenya Association of Manufacturers. With all these big companies, Mr. Speaker, big companies are dumping their waste, their effluent. The law allows them, MCA law allows them that they must provide how their effluent is discharged. Let me accept it. Somebody somewhere failed. Because of corruption, because of greed, nobody wanted to protect the environment. NEMA had the teeth. This DG has transferred a number of people. But they got to big people and they were being returned. All the NEMA officials in the city are transferred, all of them, including the county director, who had very powerful connections. Michuki, I read his notes. The late Michuki, he had a good vision. Mzee Moi, when he started umomonyoko wa udongo, people used to laugh at him. If we could have picked from where he left, today Kenya, our forest cover, which is 10.3%, could have been 35%. The Speaker, Ethiopia, our neighbor, has done 36 billion tree growing in 10 years. So far, Mr. Speaker, we have done 451 million. Every minister has a county. And I am ready to work with every member here to give you the seedlings, to work with KEFRI and KFS. Mr. Speaker, where you come from, you have seen what UNHCR, Mr. Speaker, and I want you to support me, is a global UN entity to take care of the interests of refugees. They must provide an alternative energy source. They have cut all the trees over the years. I have told the UNHCR country director, it will not be business as usual. I will go with you to the dam. And I told them I have the backing of all the members of parliament from that area. They're even killing elephants. They're killing giraffes and sell them. Together, all of us must protect. So, Honorable TJ, I have told you who is polluting, and we will deal with them. What are we doing about it? We are removing all dam sites and structures along the riparian land. Honorable TJ, help us on this Nairobi River regeneration. We lost 42 people during the floods. We are not ready to lose any other life. We are not ready. The Madara River, the Ngong River, Honorable Member for Madare, lost a lot of people. We must bite the bullet. The president is ready. The government is ready. We are committed. Kenya is a capital of UNEP. We have a green constitution. We must have Nairobi River like the Thames River. At one time, the Thames River was a sludge. Today, the Thames River is a great transport hub in London. In addition to this intervention, Nairobi River Commission was established by His Excellency. The story of it, I think the Honorable Member has my answer. He asked a second question to outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that discharge affluent. I think I've answered. NEMA has conducted inspection to identify the illegal discharging along the riparian. Out of the 145 facilities, which we have mapped, 101 facilities have been listed by NEMA as having compliance issues because they don't have the required discharge according to the law. I have attached the list. I have nothing to hide. Yes, Even the banks, I have searched with the banks, they have a sustainability obligation, KCB, equity. If they are giving credit to a company, to a factory that is destroying the environment, even that sustainability of that company will be in question. So about 101, we have slaughterhouses who are discharging raw affluent to Nairobi River. NEMA will undertake compliance evaluation through inspection. Question 3, Mr. Speaker, was Honorable TJ has asked our indulgence to state the measures that we have put in place. And I think I've already put it. But let me come to what are we doing about pollution control and waste water management. The Speaker, religious groups and those who run clubs, some of them are running clubs under a tent, like in Kitengela. The music that they play can even disturb a family 5 kilometers. Even our citizens, when they are celebrating a graduation or a birthday, they must. You can't bring all your friends because your son is graduating and then you play music the whole night. Some people have sick people. Some have young children. Some people are tired, they want to sleep early. So, Speaker, I am a victim this weekend in my own estate. But because I didn't want to be accused of using my powers, I wrote a small note to the chairman of our estate, and I told him, this is against the law. Please, by 10 o'clock, reduce noise pollution. NEMA partnered. NEMA has the powers. They have a police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's something this House has given us under regulation. It's called Extended Producer Responsibility Enforcement. That if, for example, a bottle of Coca-Cola or a packet of Brookside is found along Nairobi River, that company, under extended producer responsibility, they must come and clean that river. NEMA must issue that restoration order. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, during the finance bill, one of the biggest multinational companies was against the eco levy. Why was that company against the eco levy? Because their franchise in Kenya, when their packets or their bottles are found along Nairobi River and NEMA uses the extended producer responsibility, that responsibility goes to the owner of the brand, who is a multinational. And they came, I was watching, they come before the finance committee. They don't want to take responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, when the restoration support bill come next month or next year, that will be used to protect the environment, our ecosystem, I really want to ask colleagues here to support that bill and to make it even more punitive. Honorable Speaker, I think on noise pollution, it's becoming a very, very serious issue. So restoration order, sustainable waste management, the law is there of 2022. This House has enacted it. It aims to promote a circular economy in waste management, such as segregation of waste at source. In your homes, in the next few months, I will gazette the coded, where in your homes you must have a waste bin for the waste, for the wet waste, for the organic, and for the dry. The vehicles that will carry must carry separately. And when they take it to Dandora dam site, there must be different areas for different waste. For the dry one, the young people can use it for recycling. For the organic, can be used even for manure. Our public transport system must have waste bins, Mr. Speaker. That when, if you eat a banana, you don't throw it from the window. So public transport owners must provide. And so, Mr. Speaker, all these, we will enforce the noise pollution. We will enforce those who are dumping effluent to Nairobi River. When we deal with them, please don't call me. Because you will call me, it is my friend, it is somebody who supported me. Let us, all of us together, and I really want to indulge this house. I really want to indulge the leadership of Kenya is sitting here. Please, let us be remembered for conserving our environment. Let us be remembered for the fourth preamble of our Constitution that says we must protect, preserve the environment for the current generation and the future generations. The framers of the Honorable Speaker was part of the constitution making. The framers of our Constitution, I had a chat with the judges of the Environment and Land Courts. They totally agree with me. They said, up to the Chief Justice, let us, all of us, citizens, make sure, but Nairobi members of parliament, majority are sitting here, my final shot. Please, help me and the president and the multi-agency team. There was a question why, I think, Honorable, why KDF? I think that's the question that you want to deal with me when I appear before the Environment Committee. And I was ready tomorrow, but I am told tomorrow members have other important business. Mine is not important anymore. So they have given me a date of 15th. And as a ranking member, Mr. Speaker, this one is very important, so you better go do it. I have no vote, but it is important. So tomorrow, Honorable TJ, I got a letter from the committee. We meet on the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'm sure that the House is seriously excited that we have a new sheriff on environmental matters in town. And I wish I was not on the chair and I was on the other side when you were talking about the UNHCR and what needs to be done. But in any case, I know me and you come from the same county, so we'll talk about it. It's a serious work, and you're cut for the job, and you're doing a fantastic job. Now, the Honorable members, Martin Owino, followed by Anthony Oluoch, order. No, you will get your shot. You will get your shot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
TJ, wait. You will take the final shot, and the minister will. That's the tradition right now, which is set in here. You ask, and then you also give the last question, so that the minister can. Yeah, Honorable Owino.
Thank you so much,
followed
Mr.
by
Speaker.
the Honorable Anthony Oluoch. Then I'll go to the ladies.
CS Duale, congratulations. We know people miss you, but some people miss you more, especially for us who you mentored in first term. I just want to ask for the small rural urban areas like Ndewa, who are struggling right now with how to deal with this pollution and also mismanagement of waste. So my question is, right now we are reactive because of missteps when things were being done. Is there any plan for prevention of these messes? For example, working together with the Ministry of Planning for proper town planning, for these upcoming urban areas like Ndewa. And are you also going to reach out to our youth? Because we also need this engagement of youth which you have created. So don't just stop at the county level, but are you also going to reach and work with the constituencies so that they can help in managing the environment. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Speaker.
the Honorable will watch. Let it be a question. I don't make it very long.
Okay, thank you very much. And CS, allow me to also thank you and for the very seamless transition. It appears as if you are actually fit for the environment as opposed to the previous one. I come from a neighboring constituency from my friend, Honorable TJ Kajwang. Let me begin by the pollution or the polluters that you have indicated, and you very correctly said that the informal settlements hardly do the majority of the pollution. In one of my constituency wards called Mlango Kubwa around Mau Mau Road, if you go there, a new dumping site has now started for the last 1 year. And if you look at some of what is being dumped, the menu does not look like some of the constituents who voted for me. You find macaroni remains, pishori papers. I mean, you find a lot of polythene paper of things that ordinarily I know for a fact that are not consumed on a daily basis by my constituents. But that is besides. The main point that I wanted to make to the CS is in relations to the Madare River, the demolitions that took place, and you correctly said that majority of the people affected came from my constituency and Ruaraka constituency. The people in my constituency are still smarting from the demolitions and the removals that took place in that particular place. I am very happy, and I'm sure TJ is, that Nairobi River Commission is coming to your ministry. That you have indicated you will address on the 15th, and I would be happy to appear alongside TJ. The main question that I wanted to ask you is in relation to slaughterhouses, and you indicated that slaughterhouses are one of the main causes of pollution. In Madare, I have the Kiamaikol community, where the mainstay of business for the Somali community is slaughter. Your predecessor intervened when Nema people targeted the Somali community in my constituency for harassment when they consistently were in compliance with the standards that were being made. To date, they still continue to be harassed. They still continue to be threatened with the closure of their slaughterhouses. And I want to invite you, CS, that you take the opportunity to come to my constituency, in particular to Kiamaikol Ward, because then we'll have a live interaction of, do the slaughterhouses, all of them, contribute into pollution of the rivers, or is there an element of corruption and high-handedness from the Nema people because of business competition? You will also be able to see yourself the Nairobi River that passes there and get the participation of the local people on how best we can be able to preserve two things: the businesses that must continue of the Kiamaikol people and the Nairobi River that we must protect. Thank you. CS.
The Honorable Beatrice Elachi, followed by the Honorable Omanyo, and I'll come to all of you. The Minister, the CS will take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to really thank the CS, who is one of the majority leaders that we've had in this country, and we will remember for many years his consistency when he means something, and I believe this is what he means in the Ministry of Environment. Mr. Speaker, mine is to just say two things. I appreciate, as he says, that we are now going to deal with Nairobi Water and also with Athi. And for me, the issue here is now the drainages and the sewers within the informal settlements, where you find they're the ones after, let's say, for example, when it rains, definitely they will drain to Nairobi River. How can we deal with that? And how can we bring in new sewer lines where there are no sewer lines? If that can really help us. But more importantly also, how can we have a program in schools where children in informal settlements can learn also how to dispose garbage, because they'll be able to assist their parents in terms of separation of garbage and all that. And lastly, is there a way we can have a program with the Turkish government, I think, so that we can have olive oil trees, which we know you can plant anywhere. Whether it's in a dry land, it will grow. So that we have those seedlings and help now for those who are in areas where they are semi-arid or really arid to plant those trees, and it will help us even with oil. Thank you.
Honorable Omanya, you can ask your question also.
Oh, I thought I was next, Mr. Speaker.
Oh,
Me?
but you're Omanya, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Buena CS, thank you so much for your extensively well-elaborated answers. But in Busia, we have, it's like two things happen at a go. Whenever it rains, it is too much that the overflow happens and the riverbanks burst, especially in Budalangi, and most of the habitats have to run away for safety all the time whenever it is raining. So while we are thinking of planting trees, other areas that are dry to attract rains, we have too much sometimes. And my question is, what is your plan to raise either something that can obstruct whenever the overflow happens in Budalangi, because this should stop. It has been there since I was not born. Then I'm now this age, the same story of floods affecting our people. And then now when you go to Teso North, there is a hard pan. I tried to dig boreholes. I couldn't go beyond. And that the few areas that have boreholes, they are seasonal. So there is a problem in that area in Teso North. I'm asking, is there a way we can have piped water to go across the sub-county, or a dam that can feed all the area, because that area, women are raped at night and girls going across the other county in Bungoma to queue for 6 to 8 hours. I meet men whenever I'm doing my own crisscrossing, and they make it as a joke and say, at night you wake up, you are touching left and right, your wife is not there. She has gone to look for this important basic need, water. So we can save a lot. When you come to Budalangi, food insecurity is now high. Poverty levels have gone too high as well. And no one anywhere in the world is likes to be put or called as poor. There are situations that happens and they find themselves like that. Now that you have been sounding so knowledgeable, I am begging, as the women representative there, that we put it pragmatically so that it doesn't just look very well done theoretically.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara, and then Cherorot, and then the Honorable Kajuang, and the rest of you will take a serious bite on the next question.
Thank you.
There's another question also which is very similar to this, and you can ask anything on environment, because the minister is there for the Minister for Environment. So
Thank you. Thank you.
basically, yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll take note of all these things, and he'll answer them. Whatever he can't answer them, we'll answer them next time.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, allow me also to voice my delight this afternoon to have our former Leader of Majority being with us here. Even when he became a ranking member, I remember we used to do many, many long hours in the House, and as he can witness, we are still doing it with vigor. So we are carrying on, we are holding fort in respect of the House. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask him regarding the pollution that Honorable T.J. Kajuan has actually asked about. We know very well Nairobi River is murky. In fact, as we live within the precincts of Nairobi, you cannot, unless where it is absolutely necessary, you cannot drink that water. But as the river goes down, it gets into Machakos and then into Makwedi. And residents there actually use that water when it is not treated. it's a very big health hazard. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that even as we clean the river here in Nairobi, the water is also treated so that the health and safety measures that would apply in Machakos and Makueni are applicable and those people are safe? Similarly, but in the contrast, the Tana River has very clean water. As it traverses the Raka, we actually use that water without any treatment, and hardly, seldomly, can it be said that it's a health hazard. And I know you do it in Garissa, because I come to Garissa quite often, and I see as it flows under the bridge. But as we speak today, there is a very serious threat to that river because of the water towers, which are ordinarily Mount Kenya, Nyambene Regis, and those ones. The tributaries that drain into Tana River are now dry, and therefore the river has very little water. When you combine that with harvesting or harnessing of electricity, then you have a dry river as it meanders past Garissa into the Indian Ocean. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that, first and foremost, we save the water towers of Mount Kenya and Nyambene Regis? Number two, that we plant trees that are actually friendly to the riverine condition, special trees that will help in preserving water along the Tana River and its tributaries.
Honorable Cherarot, be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to tell the CS that he is equal to the task. And for him to succeed also, he has to make sure that he cuts across the Ministry of Water and Agriculture, because they are interconnected. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the challenge we have in our country is the air pollution, and also the challenge we have is that we have to shop wisely. Because the other day, Mr. Speaker, I was from Nakuru, and I was following another car. And the guy in front of me, the users of that car, threw some waste. I think they were eating some food, and then they threw it on the road. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the CS, what are the measures that you are going to put in place to make sure that Kenyans behave wisely and they handle their environment well? Another thing that I want to ask the CS is that what plans do you have? Because you find that in our country, most of the rivers have been neglected. And I want to ask him, what measures is he putting in place to make sure that Kenyans themselves own it and participate, especially by taking care of their environment? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that I'll ask what also measures is he going to make sure that he put in place so that we employ the use of recycle, because there is a problem, reuse and recycle, so that we can be able to manage well our waste, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable TJ, so that the minister, we can dispose of that question. We'll go to the next question, and you'll take a bite of that.
Mr. Speaker, many members have...
You will have an opportunity on the next one. The minister has taken already too many members. Order. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, many members have complimented, congratulated, and expressed a lot of faith in the Cabinet Secretary. So I wouldn't go there. I will just take it where it belongs. But I have to give him worth the distinction that he has in relevance. I think he has attended to this question with a lot of relevance. But so that these questions are not shrouded, I have a lot of respect for members, but they have asked a lot of carry-through questions, which may lose the gist of the question that this minister came here to respond to. I want to pick only 4 aspects of it very quickly, so that the minister is brought back to the questions which are direct to this issue. in question Roman 3 says, what measures are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the minister has responded, well so, that one of the things that they have in place is this animal called Nairobi River Commission. I want to take that. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister aware, of course, I'm sure he is, being a ranking member of this House who knows legislation making and so on, he knows of Gazette Notice, special issue number 258 of 2nd of December 2022, which created this Nairobi Rivers Commission. And in this notice, the Gazette especially is 14891, which quotes the Climate Change Act and quotes the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Of course, the issue of the rivers is in the Act of Environmental Management Act. In fact, at that time, the Climate Change Act, you read it all, there is no function at all that is given to Nairobi Rivers Commission. And yet, that is the act upon which this is predicated. But worse, over the page, it is signed by a man that I'm coming to respect, called Honorable the President, William Samoei Ruto. Now, under that act, it is this CS who has the authority to appoint a commission, not the president at all, and it is not delegated function. And number two, this Gazette Notice must be laid before this House under delegated powers and jurisdiction of this House. And nobody has the power to make law other than this House. I'm sure the minister knows this. And so they create a commission, and yet it is this commission which is driving the policy of cleaning the Nairobi River. I am going to meet him on 15th, but in that 15th, I've asked him to consider disbanding this commission and creating it afresh in a legislative process that is viable. But in this case, he would have to respond and say, if in this question I have asked, that if this commission were to drive this process, that it is dead as dodo, ab initio. Number two, I like what the minister is saying about producer responsibility. In other words, if it is breweries, or if it is sewerage, Nairobi sewerage, or Athi sewerage, they have a responsibility on these river courses. I like that. And is the minister considering creating a more substantive enforcement powers under these commissions or the companies that are responsible? For example, to insist that their balance sheets, there must be an account in which some portion of money in what they make, whether profits or not, is dedicated to the cleaning up of these river courses because of that responsibility which the minister is talking about. The last one is, you see, Honorable Oluoch is on the upper coast than me, so he gets polluted before I get polluted in that course as it goes down the road. But you see, there's a neglect of Nairobi River. And so even when you say about dumping, there must be consistent way of opening up that river course by dredging, and that is not very little money. Dredging the course to keep it open so that the substances as they pass through, including medical affluents, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things that Oluoch and we see in that river coming from the myriads of clinics. There are more clinics than there are people. I don't know whom they are treating, but there is more clinics than there are people. And all that effluence is coming down the river. So dredging, and then people from a place that I have a lot of respect for, have this affinity of land. When they see land, their body changes. So what they do is that they dump sand. They dump quarry sand on the coast of the river, so that as much as it is getting constricted, Mr. Speaker, this is very important.
The chair has given you an inordinately long leeway for you to make your case, but don't turn this into a very long speech.
I'm most obliged. I'm most obliged. And you know, you and I are now the remaining. So, Mr. Speaker, but the point is this, that these people are dumping quarry sand in packets, so that the river creates some more land. This is what we learn, him and I. These people from those places, they have an affinity for land. So Mr. Speaker, the CS must know how to dredge this river course and remove all those this dump material, so that the river gets back to its course wide and sure, and as it goes down, the water becomes a little loose and more liquid, so that there is a velocity that it flows down the river. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, one serious takeaway, yes, just to add on, yes, is that if I got him right, he is saying, what regulatory, is it going to be a new piece of legislation that's going to give you more teeth than you've had before for you to be able to perform all this raft of very ambitious things, or you can do it through like regulations? Is that right, Mr.? Oh, okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you are a ranking member. Maybe TJ follows you, and the Honorable Kamket has not had, because he's not very far from Honorable TJ, but the senior senior ranking member is the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House, and Honorable TJ, and you know, the laws are there. The problem in our country is enforcement.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to deal with enforcement. And the man in charge of enforcement, whether it is noise pollution, whether it's waste management, whether it is environmental degradation, Nairobi River, dam sites, if all of us, the leadership, we work together, I want to assure you that the people who have been given the mandate, why does NEMA has police officers and other agencies don't have? It's because how important environment is. So Honorable TJ, I agree with you in creating the Nairobi River legal notice 14891, there are issues. But we are very lucky. I don't want to be accused, but now we have an Attorney General, one of the most brilliant women, I think, in Kenya. I will sit with her when the executive order is signed. Nairobi River comes to my ministry. We will sit with her. We want to work within a legal framework. Secondly, all that you're asking about Nairobi River, the 30-meter riparian size. We will drench Nairobi River. We will build embankments so the river comes back to its course and carry the water. But what I will do, because that presentation was done to His Excellency the President on Monday by our team, I will look for a day. I invite the Nairobi leaders, and we will show you the plan we have. I will not succeed in this ministry without the leaders, without the members of parliament. Honorable Oluoch, Honorable TJ, Honorable Beatrice Alachi, Honorable KJ, I need your support. But I want to assure, through the Speaker, Nairobi River will not be the same again. And this is not me saying, it's President William Ruto and the Commander-in-Chief who is saying he has only given me delegated authority. But it's him who said it on Monday, and we have a serious, and that's why we have started with Nairobi River. So we'll fix that. And I agree. You know, the members now have put me in many, many other issues. Let me speak to my good sister from Busia. The flooding control, please, and we have done research, work with KFS and KEFRI, plant more bamboo trees. Bamboo trees have become successful in the control of floodings. We will provide with you, we will go there, let us plant as many bamboo trees as possible. And you will count on me, that's success. The other issue which government did was, it's the same problem we are facing with Tana River when it floods. As we go, get more money, but I think that we can do it. Because it's an intervention also for restoration of the ecosystem. If you mix it with the indigenous tree species, our honorable women rep, and even planting in the riparian areas, I can tell you that is a quick solution we can start with. On the challenge, Mr. Speaker, on Tana River by the Honorable Mulugara, I've missed you. There are times, Mr. Speaker, during our days, it was difficult, if you allow me, during our days it was difficult to impeach a deputy president. And the reason was we had the numbers. We had 145. And you know, if you have 117, you survive. So as we were aligned to William Ruto, we had 145, and Murugara was our lead counsel. So the problem of the challenge of siltation in Tana River is that we need to protect the water catchment areas through planting the right species. Tell the people not to plant eucalyptus. Eucalyptus trees will finish. Secondly, there are too many horticulture and farming, and people are diverting the water at the top of the abadeas and the other areas. So by the time it's coming to Garissa, Tharaka, Tana River, it meanders and it migrates like the nomads. So even farmers, palms, this month is here, the next month it's in a dry area. And I agree with you, but let's help. Honorable Wino, very good point. I have talked to NEMA, we'll work with the county. We must ensure working with the Department of Physical Planning, and we'll come up with a holistic land use for even our rural part. But the NEMA person on the ground must...
Honorable Olwoch, you are supposed to be listening to the minister because he's answering the things you ask. Proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Honorable Wino, your point is very valid. I will prepare it conclusively, but we will deal with it. There was the issue of the solid waste management. The problem I have, and let me be very frank to the House, most of the challenges we are facing with waste management, noise pollution, environmental issues, all these are devolved. All these are devolved. And nobody in the counties wants to take care. I mean, we must face it. We must face it. And as I talk to you, let me start with Nairobi. And the president has really helped the county government of Nairobi. We will help him in terms of resources, because we will not deal with Nairobi River if we don't fix the old debilitated sewer system in Nairobi. So the president has committed that he will first fix the sewer. Because the sewer line is in the river. Even when we want to drench, we will meet the sewer lines. But yesterday, the president has committed, and please, when it comes to the House, the budget, support it. Because we want to fix that sewer line and maintain it properly.
Yeah, I think...
we shall use what you call the expanded responsibility. Honorable TJ, I can tell you, today I want to forgive them. But if I give you the names of the corporations that pollute Nairobi River with their products, some of them, they make billions of profits. So when we bring a restoration fee order that will be domiciled in NEMA, that will be only used, it will not go to the National Treasury to go and use it to pay debt. It will only be used, and you must amend that, you are good in amendments. It will only be used for environmental restoration and protection. Please support me. You saw it on the newspapers, because we must protect, even as honorable member from Lamu, we must even protect the marine ecosystem. It's very, very important to our country, Mr. Speaker. And you know Lamu very well. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Honorable Oluoch, you are a very good man, but please, I am not a Somali minister. I am a Kenyan minister. And that is the oath I took. But you are better, at least you have called me Somali. Some called me warrior, which is very, very demeaning. It's very demeaning. It's better you call me Somali, but not warrior. Warrior is very demeaning. It is a shame. Those people of mine, they have no choice. There are 15 of them who have not complied, the slaughterhouses. 2 have complied. They will not be closed because of competition. And I agree with you. I know who wants to close them. They employ a lot of people. But what I want you to do, the Korean government has given NEMA some facility to deal with affluent not to come to Nairobi River. I want us, we sit with us in my office with you and NEMA, and we agree on how we help them. Them do the business, and then they don't discharge their affluent to the river. So that I protect your votes, but I protect the environment. You know, and tell them what Didi said. I think, Speaker, Speaker, I have finished. Yes. We are, the only good thing Honorable Bichi said was, yes, we are working with the Kenya Curriculum Department to mainstream waste management into our school curriculum. We have already written to them so that our children, we teach our kids about waste disposal and waste sustainability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I have tried.
Yeah, you've done ably,
yes.
and very well answered that question. Now we're going to the last question. The
last one, I think, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, is on saving our water towers. I think somebody asked, I think it was Honorable Murugara. We are doing fencing, we are doing restoration, we're involving the communities, and we are doing what is called Adapt a Forest Initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then the last question, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tigania. Order, honorable members, you will get a bite now. So wait until the question is asked. They're pretty much similar, and I know I've noticed the honorable member for Lamu, the honorable member for Kwanza, the honorable Kamket, all of you will get an opportunity to also weigh in on this. So just relax, hold your horses. Proceed, Honorable Mutunga, and ask the question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank Honorable Edendwele for very ably answering the questions so far. And since I did not get an opportunity to ask him a question on the past questions that he has answered, if you can allow me, I will first of all start with that, then I ask my question. Allow? I would ask one question.
No. Ask the question. Ask the question first.
Okay, Honorable Speaker.
In the follow-up question, then you can ask.
My question, Honorable Speaker, is
the rules are very the tradition, yes.
On climate financing. I would like the minister to explain the structure of climate financing in Kenya, while outlining the key actors and the benefits gained through climate financing to fight issues arising from climate change. In other words, to address the issues arising through climate change.
Yes, proceed.
The second question is to elaborate on how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanisms in place to ensure that farmers who plant trees qualify for carbon credits.
Very good.
Thank you.
Minister, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mutunga, very professional. When I saw his question, is what I grappled with during my vetting. I had to go and read on carbon credits, what it means. It's a very complicated thing. But Mr. Speaker, I wish to know that Kenya's climate financing structure comprises of a mixed international, national, and private sector financial flows, which are aimed at supporting our country's climate change, both in terms of mitigation and in terms of adaptation efforts. Because those climate financing deal with two. How do we deal with climate crisis? One is mitigation, the other one is adaptation. And this involves a multi-stakeholder framework. It involves integrated both public and private sector actors. It involves both bilateral and multilateral donors. It involves domestic institutions to channel funds towards addressing climate-related issues. And, Mr. Speaker, the structure of climate finance has key actors. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight on who are these key actors in climate finance and what are their roles. The first actor is the National Treasury. And the primary duty of the National Treasury is the primary custodian of all matters of climate finance and responsible implementation of our climate finance policy. So whatever we do with our climate finance framework, number two, the National Treasury role is overall mobilization of climate funds, and they lead. When we go to COP29 in November, they will be the lead people in terms of climate finance negotiation under the United Nations framework for Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC. The other function of the National Treasury is to establish a dedicated climate finance and green economy unit, which they did in 2016, and that unit coordinates, facilitates activities related to climate finance. Also, they are the current implementers in all our counties, I think even in Garissa and in Meru, where you come from. They are the implementers of a fund called Financing Locally Led Climate Action, known as FLOCA program. It's mainly run from the National Treasury, but the main stakeholders are county governments. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury as an actor is the Kenya National Designated, the DNA, for Green Climate Fund. The DNA is in my ministry. It is domiciled in NEMA. That's where the register is for carbon market. But in terms of Green Climate Fund, the National Treasury holds the pen. The next group is the National Climate Change Council, ACTA. This is chaired by the President, and myself as the Minister for Environment is the Secretary. We have the Minister for Energy, we have somebody from the academia, we have somebody from the civil society, we have somebody from the marginalized communities, we have somebody representing the youth, and you passed it in the Climate Act Amendment 2 months ago, this House. I am at the stage of establishing that council. So what does this council do as an actor? This council's mandate is to provide legislative and policy direction. So whatever that comes to the House, whether it's a policy or legislative, it emanates. They do supervision, they do oversight, they do guidance on climate change across all levels of government, including even the climate finance mechanism that I've just talked about. It's called the Climate Change Fund. The third actor is the Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, which was established in 2015 to provide leadership. Their function is to provide leadership on the climate finance activities in Kenya, including the GCF. The Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance is composed of senior technical officers handling climate change, climate finance matters from various ministries, from various departments, from various agencies, and even from the Council of Governors. The fourth actor is my ministry, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. What do? We coordinate climate change actions in the country, and we are the focal point for this UNFCCC. We chair this Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, and we operationalize the entity for Global Environmental Facility, which supports a number of our programs. The fifth actor is NEMA. What does NEMA do? As I said earlier, NEMA is the designated national authority for carbon markets in Kenya. The register is there. They do assessment when there is a carbon market project in your constituency. They analyze, they look at the law, and Mr. Speaker, I want to thank this House. The regulations for carbon market was passed last week, and for the first time, if, for example, there is a carbon offset project in Dr. Mutunga or the Deputy Speaker's, the Speaker's constituency, the community by law will get 40% of the proceeds. And the project will not continue until something called Community Development Agreement is signed. Before, nobody was paying. There were many companies who were getting billions from even our soil carbon, and they were not paying anything. So NEMA is now mandated as a focal point. They co-chair the interministerial, and they do the implementing entity for the adaptation fund, and the direct access entity. Then we have the line ministries and state departments, and then we have the line ministries they must mainstream climate action in planning and budgeting. Then we have the county governments, the establishment of the county climate change funds. Many funds is going to our counties, and I think the Senate has an obligation to make sure that they also audit those funds. In our counties, the mainstreaming of climate action in the counties planning and budgeting process. I think the final, the two final actors is the development partners. What do the development partners do? They have the provision of the climate finance and technical assistance. They include the multilateral, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We have the bilateral actors, the European Union, the NIDA, USAID, CEDA, AFD, many of them JICA. Then lastly, we have the private sector. And what is their role as an actor in the climate financing? Their investment in low carbon climate resilient in terms of technologies and in terms of action. Kenya Commercial Bank, for example, is accredited by the Global Climate Fund. Equity Bank, Cooperative Bank, they have been nominated for accreditation. Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers are members of the Interministerial Technical Committee. Speaker, the second, he asked what is the benefits of financing received. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is mobilizing an average of 300 billion every year on climate finance and climate-related investment from both the public and the private sector. Some of the notable climate funding and projects in Kenya include the IMF Resilient Sustainability Facility of $544 million, the FLOCA program, which I said it is domiciled mainly in our counties, of $295 US, the Adaptation Fund of $10 million US, the Kenya Smart Agriculture Project, $250 million US, and the Climate Investment Fund, USD 70 million. The climate finance, Mr. Speaker, received by Kenya brings several significant benefits that contribute to the country's effort to mitigate and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. These benefits are many and they span across environmental, social, economic dimensions. They enhance resilience, they support sustainability, and they contribute to our development. Honorable Speaker, allow me to bring to the attention of the House that as a country, we have a significant climate financing gap, which hinders our ability to fully implement our climate goals, including those outlined in our country's national determined contribution. The full implementation of NDC requires a country to mobilize USD 62 billion. Despite the influx of international and domestic funding, the available financial resources fall short of estimated needs for climate financing. But Mr. Speaker, there are about 4 regulations remaining on climate financing, carbon market, even the registry, which I'll bring to the House next week. And we should be through, God willingly, before COP29 in Baku. I really want to urge the Committee of Delegated Legislation. They have really helped me when I was in defense, and even here when I'm in environment. We argued our case, and last week they really supported the first regulations. Once we deal with the legal framework, Kenya will be ahead. Kenya will be ahead of many, many countries in Africa in terms of how prepared are we for carbon market. Speaker, the second question, which is the final one, was to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanism in place. Speaker, this is very technical. So I think Dr. Mutunga might be the only one who will understand. Some of the, like the NDA, what the NDA is, what carbon trading is, what carbon index is, who is qualified, what are the parameters. On the last question, Mr. Speaker, the member seeks our indulgence to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and to state mechanism in place to ensure tree planting farmers qualify. There's a member who asked me last week if my car is old and is polluting, I told him, in fact, you are supposed to pay. Well, this carbon thing is like, for example, the big corporations in the West, like airlines, because they are polluting, they are the polluters. We are the victims. So we trade in. We plant trees, then they offset that with the pollution. So, Mr. Speaker, it's good to define simple terms what a carbon credit is. This is a unit of exchange that individuals and firms alike use to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. Farmers who plant trees can qualify for carbon projects by participating in what we call agroforestry or restoration initiatives, where carbon credits are generated based on the amount of carbon sequestered by the trees over time. Mr. Speaker, one important requirement for farmers to consider the trees planted for this specific purpose of sequestering carbon have to be on the land for a long time to ensure permanency on carbon sequestered. Allow me to elaborate the process involved. A baseline scenario is first established to estimate how much carbon could have been stored in the absence of the project. Farmers, this could mean assessing the current land use or the vegetation before tree planting. Then farmers plant trees which capture and store carbon, what they call the carbon sink as they grow. The amount of carbon is then monitored periodically based on a tree species, on growth rates or area covered. Once the carbon is verified, carbon credits are issued based on the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed. One carbon credit represents sequestration of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So farmers are remunerated, or they are paid, based on the sale of these carbon credits in carbon markets. The price of carbon credits can vary depending on market demand and the type of the project. A project developer or a farmer who wishes to engage in a carbon project shall first apply to the DNA through the register domiciled in NEMA for approval of the carbon project. The procedure for developing a carbon project are detailed in the Climate Change as Amended Act Carbon Markets Regulations, which was gazetted via Kenya Supplement, Kenya Gazette 105. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Tigania constituency marks as the end of his question, and I was to respond. But allow me that I will take time, he's my good friend, and ask even my team to take him through. Once we finish with the legal framework, this carbon market is going to benefit a lot of our people. And we have made sure 40% if a carbon market project is brought to your constituency, 40% of the proceeds must go. And I'm happy in Wajir North, the Honorable Sane has written to me, and we will gazette the forest. The man in charge of forest is here. He will go with you, he will assess. It will be the first forest in northern Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now we will order honorable members. I'll ask the MP for Kwanza, then followed by the MP for Lamu East, followed by the Honorable Sane, and then the Honorable Kamket. All of you ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Take as little time as possible. Don't
I will
make
take
a very
little time.
speech.
I've been sitting
In
here
any case, the House is supposed to sit until 9 o'clock. So you still have 2 more hours if you want to debate on this.
Mr. Speaker, Swandi-san, thank you very much for the chance. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the CS. I think you are up to the task. I know you because we've worked together in this house. You are very detailed, and I think you are very exposed. I want to thank you, and please continue. My question has been asked, but I think I want to make 2 comments, Mr. Speaker, which are very, very important. One, on this affluent and the drainage wastage, particularly in Nairobi. I had a chance to go to Israel, and I think page marking is not a problem. Mr. Speaker, I was impressed because the drainage system in Israel, and I was there, I was explained there's a system that actually trains the wastage, particularly solid wastage. Actually, it goes almost 6 kilometers away, and about 6 stages along the pipeline. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 6th stage, which is about 6 kilometers away, the water is very clean, and it's actually used for irrigation. So I think, Bwana CS, half the time, I don't want to say that you have to go to Israel, but if you have the time to get one of your officers to go there to benchmark on that, this sewage problem in Nairobi, and the urban areas will actually be solved. There's a system that actually cleans the water. At the end of it, you can't believe it, it's a clean water for irrigation. Secondly, I think on the wastage, on the afforestation.
MP for Kwanza.
Yes.
You have an opportunity to ask a supplementary question.
What? Can I just finish?
The opportunity is to ask a question.
Well,
but if you're going to make, you get a leeway, but don't make a long speech of all your experiences in Israel and everywhere. Proceed.
I will proceed. And I also, because I said my question was asked, I also want to find out whether there's any plan, because of afforestation, which is an issue, whether you have some plans, particularly on highway. And again, I want to say this, go to Denmark, you will see there's the government, I think, on the environmental, because I've got to one of my family members there, I saw along the highway, they have planted a lot of trees. And therefore, I also want you to take time to be able to benchmark in Denmark and see along the way, because you have, I think, 6 meters from the main stage and there's nothing. You can plant trees there. I also want to see if you have also the time to be able to do that benchmarking in Denmark.
Fair enough.
Thank you, because my question was asked. I just want to share this experience with my former colleague.
Okay. The Honorable Member for Lamu East.
Manners, no manners.
Lamu East, the Honorable Raphael Wanjala. You're not on the chair. Don't tell the Honorable MP for Kwanza to sit down or to rise up. Proceed, Honorable.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nami kunipa hii nafasi nipate kumuuliza waziri maswali yangu. Mwanzo nichukue nafasi hii kumpongeza waziri. Kusema la kweli hapa bunge tumekumisi. Tulikuwa sauti tunaisikia sana hapa. So sasa hivi umekuja tumekumbuka ile sauti yako. Mimi ulipopata hii nafasi nilifikiri huyo mfugaji na mazingira ni vipi, lakini sasa hii nimeona umekuwa bingwa wa kuhifadhi mazingira. Ukizungumza inatoka rohoni kabisa, ukishughulikia mazingira inakufanya upende. So naona ushaingiliana uko vizuri na pongezi kwa hilo. Swali langu la kwanza ni, kuna wakati niuliza swali ya juu ya CU. Kuna kampuni inaitwa Zarara ilienda ikachimba kule gas, hawakupata, wakafunga, lakini kile kisima hakikufungwa vizuri, kuna fumes zinatoka, moshi unatoka hapo, watu wakaogopa, na hiyo maeneo pia yamebadilika rangi, na kuna mtu yule alikuwa kilinda hapo alifariki. Sasa watu wameanza kuwa na wasiwasi. Nilipouliza swali hilo hapa bungeni nikajibiwa kwa maandishi. Wakati huo ni mabadiliko yalikuwa yametokea. So swali langu likawa halikujibika vizuri, nikasema nijibiwe tena, sijatosheka, lakini mambo ikapotelea hapo. Kwa hivyo naomba ile swali langu kama leo mnaweza kunijibu sawa, kama hamwezi mhakikishe nimejibiwa, manake ile iliyozungumzwa haikuwa sawa. Si vile kulivyo huko mashinani.
Fair enough.
Ya swali la pili, waziri, nimekusikia ukisema mambo ya hizi takataka iko kwa county. Ni kweli iko kwa county, lakini mimi hapa sina uwezo wa kwenda kumuuliza county, niko kwa bunge hili. Mimi nitakuuliza wewe. Kuna maeneo kama Lamu Mashariki, eneo ambalo Lamu Kenya nzima kwa kupanda miti tuko 42%, namba 2 Kenya nzima. Lakini utaona eneo bunge la Lamu Mashariki tuna vijiji 23. Tuna upande wa msitu na tuna upande wa bahari. Na watu wangu wanang'ang'ana kuhifadhi. Lakini hakuna mpangilio yoyote, hakuna alama yoyote ya kuonesha kutoka kwa national government au kwa county government kama kuna kitu inafanywa. Mnatupatia morali vipi? Naona waziri ukizungumza ukataja angalau upande wa marine, wa bahari. na kuomba uliingize kwa fikra, kwa sababu hapa bunge nikikaa, waziri yoyote akija, hakuna mtu anataja Lamu Mashariki. Kwa hivyo wewe umeikumbuka Lamu Mashariki, naomba utufikirie, maana kule kwetu hakuna hata pahali birika imetengezwa ya kuweka takataka. Hizo takataka zote zinawekwa kwa bahari. Kwa hivyo nataka ulifikirie hilo, kama kuna mpangilio yote na sisi utufanyie. Asante. Au kama huko umefanywa uniambie ni gani, na mimi niko ground sana, sijaona pahali. Asante.
Mheshimiwa wa Wajir North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask my supplementary questions, I want to correct.
I thought you were going to ask in Kiswahili the way that was. But proceed.
Unfortunately, I look forward to a day when the Somali language, which is being the language of many millions of Kenyans, will be an official language, and then I would have done better. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct two issues the minister pronounced himself on. One, I appreciate his generosity that he wants to gazette Bute Malawa Forest. This has been gazetted 4 years ago. All I requested him is to operationalize the 19,000 hectares of land generously given to Kenya Forest Service. So it is already gazetted. I wrote to you for its operationalization, Bwana CS. One other statement he made remarks in regard to one scientist around, an environmentalist. Speaking in front of you is equally an environmentalist on matters at hand, Mr. Speaker. So you should not think that there's only one environmentalist in the House. And going straight to the issue, the climate financing issue. Mr. Speaker, there is a paradox globally that climate financing is not purposed to stop climatic abuse, but rather the rich nations want to abuse the climate so that they become richer and the poor ones continue suffering. So all that they are trying to do under the concept of climate change is to cut out a balance between adaptation and mitigation. That's all they are doing about climate change, to strike a balance so that those who are endowed can at least give the wealth they have sinfully acquired, to use the right word, in abusing the environment, to the vulnerable ones, the poor third world states. That is what climate change in a layman way means, Mr. Speaker. And in so doing, the structure is as complex as climate change itself. It is hard to understand this issue of carbon credit. Hard, very complex. It is driven by the same selfish, rich abusers, Mr. Speaker. Now the issue. For us to come to the bottom of climate change financing, we know that the rangelands are the biggest sequester of carbon. It is a scientific concept. And where are the rangelands? Where you come from, Mr. Speaker? Where I come from, the northern Kenya, what we call ASALs. This is the biggest sequester of carbon that is a nuisance to the ozone and climate change. What structures are there? What mechanisms are there? And the most affected, the most vulnerable to climate change is, unfortunately, again, the pastoralists. The sequester, the vulnerable in equal measure. So how far is carbon financing established to make sure that those who are most affected and those who are to be the sequester of this bad element is at the core of it, is something I would wish to hear from the minister. Then, for us to structure climate financing, Mr. Speaker, there is a big data and knowledge gap. Data and knowledge gap. If you have big data and knowledge gap, it goes without saying that you can't come up with adaptation mechanisms appropriate to the risks. And consequently, what will arise? We will have a fragmented financing architecture too. that our climate financing will be fragmented. The architecture will not be smooth and well-oriented. So what are we doing about data? How authentic is our climate change data? How knowledgeable are pastoralists and those who are most affected? That is my first supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, and if you will allow me a bit of latitude to go into the first, because you stopped us, on issues of our environmental health concerning pollution on rivers, the Nairobi River. It is true, the Cabinet Secretary answered well on the matter, that maintaining a good standard of environmental health, it's a multi-sectoral, multi-pronged issue. It's not a one-off issue. It cuts across many ministries, many actors, and many livelihoods. But it is true what he said, it comes down to behavioral issue. We have informal settlements in Nairobi. How do we behave? The culture of disposing waste. But of concern to me, how is our sewerage system, is it being improved to make sure that effluents, raw effluents, human defecants do not go into our aquatic ecosystem, into our waters? And that tells me...
Honorable Sane, you've had a very long leeway. Ask one question now. You should be in the Committee on Environment and you should be giving all these ideas at the appropriate places.
Mr. Wanjala, the speaker addressed me and I am obliged to hear him. We don't have two speakers. My question in a nutshell, all that is happening in Nairobi is going downstream to downstream communities. Tana River, Indian Ocean. It's not only an impact on our terrestrial ecosystem. What are we doing on these effects on our aquatic ecosystem?
The minister will be at liberty to say that he was prepared for this question, or maybe give another day to answer some of these questions. They're very technical, and ample prior preparations is always important. Now I said Kamket, followed by Mgwen. You were supposed to have had. And Mutunga, you will get the final bite because you're the questioner. Order, Honorable Wanjala. Order. No, he's been here much earlier than you. And then the MP Oyula, Butula, and then Wanjala, you're the last. And then, of course, the questioner. And then be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, while I want to appreciate the Cabinet Secretary for his very articulate replies to our questions, and I want to state, Honorable Speaker, that the Honorable Duale is a seasoned politician. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, in terms of seniority, in terms of loyalty, he has a proven record in serving with the Excellency of the President. And in fact, Honorable Speaker, in the current circumstances, if there is anyone who deserves, should our motion go through, to become the Deputy President of Kenya, is the Honorable Duale. And why not? I mean,
order, honorable members, order. And proceed.
And why not, Honorable Speaker? Because, you know, the Honorable Duale represents all pastoralists in this country. And the pastoralist community and population is not a small one. And somebody has said, together with the Muslim population. Anyhow, Mr. Speaker, I have a particular question, and I'll need your guidance, Honorable Speaker, on this. Some time back,